Okay, so how do you think the lesson went, and what was the most effective part and why? Issa.
Me, I don't know. I went first, man. So I thought it went okay, but then I got some of the comments, and some people were like, so one person, one comment particularly affected me. She said that I was mean. The person said I was mean, like rough, mean, almost scary. That was pretty rough.
That was you? I didn't know who that was. I was like, is that
rough,
Aries?
Yeah. No, that was pretty rough. I was like, wow. I mean, I don't, I haven't seen myself, but I didn't think I came across it then. But hey, it's all productive.
If there were one part that you might want to make more effective, what would it be?
More effective? Better. You just be better prepared. I don't think I was as prepared. I mean, some of the kinks were still there. In the Prezi, and I mean, I could have rehearsed it a lot better than I did. Spend more time.
Well, for me, I thought the lesson went okay. I liked my PowerPoint, but I did see the point that Dr. Junior Clark was making about, like my circles. Well, not my circle, was it my bicycle wheel and certain things. Putting it there, you have to make the direct connection with it, or else it just doesn't need to be there in the first place.
That's right.
And then I got caught up, this looks nice, and I could see shapes and lines. And I know for me that I would change in my lesson. I would definitely let the students write out their problems. The main reason that I let them just put up their answers was because of time. And I really did want to just do a game and see how a review game would go. And then look at their papers and see what they actually did afterwards.
Right. And I think I don't think I would use a PowerPoint to do a lesson again. Not in math. I didn't think it was. I don't like it. It's just viewing, and it's not. It's everything's sitting right there, so you can't concentrate on one portion at a time. So I think next time I would just use overhead and talk through it without it being there, so that they can help give input as we learn the lesson as we go. Because you know how sometimes if you're involved in it, it's easier for you to remember it.
The video thing? Oh, yeah, I like those.
Yeah, so I would do more of that instead of trying to do a math portion in PowerPoint. Unless it's an activity and I just put it up and I don't want to print it off. But, other than that, I wouldn't use PowerPoint again. And I'll make sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'll just make sure, each class have their own vibe, and, if I use balls, if the class can't handle it, they won't do balls at all.
What about you, Son?
Yeah, the particular area I wanted to pick up about is this. Dr. Clark mentioned in the class that critic she mentioned was true when she said I'm supposed to have put in a B, C that I should, I'm not supposed to, assume. That was very poor of me. It's supposed to be black and white. But when I read those critics they wrote on the book and so on, there's one particular person in that very area, he heard of me and the Harris. I thought that place is baseless because he said I was so loud and so on. And being a teacher, you have to be very explanatory. Then he turned around and said he dressed very well. That is not the purpose of it. Then next he said the Irish was very slow or quiet, it was so low and so on, the same handwriting and so on. So I felt that very person was just speaking, it was just unnecessary. So when I read that very area, I felt that critic was personal and so on. So that is the area, I saw that very area. But to me there's an improvement because I have not taught in the United States here. Even when I did a substitute teaching and so on, I saw the reaction of the class was it's quite different from what I used to see back home. Where teachers are very authoritative, they are the power. Here the student controls and so on. So when you check and so on, I was trying to check between the reality and the facts when I was teaching. If you noticed, when there was a time, that was why I brought out the point of if somebody is using a cell phone. When I went down to one of the students there and so on, while I was using a cell phone, I was totally confused. I didn't know what to do because here, I know there are certain things you do that student will think maybe you have one thing or the other, and that's the only thing I have to say towards that point.
Next point.
Okay, skip around. How did you engage the students? You guys want to go over that question?
I mean, quickly, at least that's one thing I think I did. I'm not sure. Because it can be, sometimes you can't be objective, unless you look at yourself. But I thought I moved around and tried to get everybody involved. But perhaps the manner in which people somebody else wrote, they said I was a little snappy. I was a little snappy. I was a little kind of short, I don't know. I mean, at what grade level? I don't know. I mean, it might not work in each setting. It's kind of broad, you know. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, each grade level, each scenario is going to require a distinct thing, man. You know, you have to know where you're at. I mean, snappy maybe here. I might be snappy in Alpharetta, North Fulton, but I might just be just right
somewhere
in
else,
Clayton.
depending on your
Yeah,
setting.
I'm serious. So that's about it. But
In that very area, if you check, I picked up a cardboard. I was folding it and explaining to them, trying to use engineering method and doing it, but there was a criticism on it because they said I was over-explanatory, and that was one of the reasons I couldn't meet up the actual time of my lesson there and so on. So to me personally, there are different methods of teaching because this method that when you come up, you give people preparation without knowing it. That's one of the things that makes students not to be interested in mathematics. I felt you have to teach them first, then you ask them to make questions and answer you and so on based on what you have taught them. But this pre-post something, prepare something without, it scares children away from school and so on. It will make them not to be interested in mathematics.
that's performance-based instruction.
So that is exactly
it's performance-based instruction. People talk about, you know, but it is. I mean, everything is performance-based now, man. Testing, any areas?
I mean, well, as far as getting the students involved, I personally called on students left to right, and especially if I saw them not really focusing in on the lesson, I tried to make sure I called their name. And then ones that I didn't see participating, but overall, I pretty much called everyone in the classes I was going, made sure that everybody had a turn. But if they weren't really paying attention, then I probably called them more than the next person.
Well, for me, I try to use the game to get students engaged, and then I know in the beginning I wanted to get students engaged by asking questions about what they probably learned in Issa's lesson about parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and I did get feedback where I should have probably asked more questions about transversals to other students because I started out with it, but I didn't continue. I just kept explaining, and then student engagement kind of went off and then came back a little bit during the game. So I'd probably walk around the room more and talk to the students more, ask them more questions, let them answer. Let me see what they actually know rather than only lecturing and just looking at the PowerPoint and trying to explain everything to them.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, nice outfit. People commented on your outfit.
Yes. I was like, wow, my outfit nice. And everything else
Same to you,
sucked.
so nobody commented on my tie at all. I guess you look good.
What would you do differently? Well, we kind of went over that a little bit. Or do you guys have anything else?
I don't know. I mean, you know, that'd be nice coming from somebody else. So what do you think? You know, I think if my peers could tell me what, you know, something they one thing
That you could do
Yeah,
differently?
yeah, I would appreciate that.
To me personally, the only thing I have to do differently is this, exactly what I mentioned earlier and so on. If his pretest is the best they wanted here and so on, then I better apply it. That's the only thing I can do differently from what I did, because I felt I'll have to lecture first and before coming in to start asking questions.
Is there anything that you can tell, like one of your peers, like something that you observe,
Yeah.
as a suggestion for any of us? Yeah, that you can.
Personally, I would say for all of us, it's just really being more interactive with the students.
Yeah.
That's
That's
one
what I
thing I
noticed
could
with
say.
mine.
We weren't really interacting with them. So my thing would be is to get a little bit more personable with our class, to let them know, okay, although I am the teacher, we're here to learn this together.
Yeah, it's funny because when you plan out the lesson in your mind, it's like, okay, everything's working perfectly. Students are going to ask questions. I can answer the question. They're not going to walk around the room. But when you get there and you're trying to, you know, hustle, get everything down real fast and in the haste, you forget things. Like, I wanted to do an example of the game before I gave the game, and I didn't do that. It's just, I wanted to be out in the space, but then it was like I completely forgot in that second trying to get everything done and make sure everybody had their time. But I guess you have to be wary of that as a teacher anyway.
Most of the program you brought in was so beautiful, I have to be honest with you. The Jeopardy was so nice, the game and so on, it made the group very special. Dr. Clark even mentioned something about it and so on. It would look
Yeah,
different from
Jeopardy,
other groups, yeah. So,
We did a good job on
yeah,
Jeopardy.
we did.
Do you guys want to answer like a couple more questions? Or?
I mean, what's the time? How much time?
We're at 10 minutes right now.
Ooh,
We should wrap it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Wrap it
Last
up.
question.
That's about 2 minutes a pop, though.
So, was there a critical moment / turning point in the lesson for you? If so, what was it? And I think, were there any unexpected responses? That looks like an interesting one.
Yeah, probably the balls.
Like,
Right?
what did you?
You weren't
well,
expecting
you
that.
didn't
You weren't
see
expecting to
something
throw those
coming that
balls.
made you think
Yeah.
about your lesson a little more.
Well, I knew that the class was simulating.
History. The student right there was the one who threw the ball right there.
Yes, he was. I knew that they would simulate, classroom behaviors as well. But throwing balls and missiles, as an adult, I didn't expect that to happen. When you're hitting people in the head, although that part wasn't from my lesson. But when that happened, it was like, okay, quick thought, what else can I do? Because this method isn't working, so I had to have a turnaround plan and immediately, respond to the situation, because if anybody got hurt, it would have been me. So I needed to make sure that my students were safe.
Yeah, I think that was a little difficult because you're looking at adults in front of you and you're not expecting that adults are going to do that, but you're supposed to be looking at them like they're eighth graders.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work as well while you're doing your micro teaching and you're thinking about teaching. You're like, oh, they have that, and it's easy to just overpass that. But I didn't expect somebody to, I don't even know who did it, to put that x equals, was it 101 over 25 degrees, and it was just supposed to be x equals 1 over 25. And that just caused a whole uproar. And I didn't even think that somebody would put the wrong answer and I'd have to explain it and that it caused any problems. And I didn't think about somebody actually writing down someone else's answer at that point. And you have to think about those things beforehand, before you do any activity with your group. What are all the little things that could go wrong? I mean, you're not going to see everything, but you have to at least be able to see a lot of what could happen, mess up a lesson, or what could go well, too.
Coming up to that aspect and so on, I was the last person, so I used what happened to you people, to build up that one. When I saw that they were throwing that ball, I changed my mind from flying the plane. I have to change and use one person as the person to throw it towards, because I didn't expect that they would be hitting that ball, especially when JC used that in hitting somebody. I have to run away with this guy.
I saw it coming.
So I changed the course from what I wanted to build up. So I decided to keep the paper. I didn't want anybody to be playing anymore before somebody would get injured. So that is the area I changed the very course from the initial something I planned to do.
Did everybody put in theirs? Okay.
Overall, good job, guys. Good job, guys. You guys did a good job.
Ooh,
All
ended all nice and pretty.